Hello, 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 my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Stop Doing Nothing show, the video show, the YouTube show, the podcast, the Spotify show, wherever you're listening to us. I just want you to know that I always appreciate your comments, your questions, and the things that you send to us so we can talk about these things. I try to get out a show, every week, but sometimes it can be a challenge. Ironically, this one's going to be about staying on committed goals, which I'm having, some trouble with myself. And my trouble, I think, right now is coming with some of the challenges of basically when it comes to like big goals, difficult goals. So I thought that would be a good topic for us to talk about. And by the way, if you like the podcast, make sure you subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, I'm sure there's a button down there someplace below where you can click on subscribe and hit the bell to make sure you get notified, because the more you watch and the more comments you drop below kind of steer the conversation about what I want to talk about. And today it's going to be talking about the importance of staying committed to difficult goals. And this is something that I'm constantly having a challenge with, but I think I'm making progress on it. And I love the fact that we're going to talk about, in particular, difficult goals, because you can always watch videos about goal setting and about why you should be doing goal setting and using the SMART method for goal setting. I mean, we've all watched so many goal videos out there, and I've even made a few myself. But this time I'm going to deep dive a little bit and talk about, difficult goals and challenging goals. It may be one thing to make a goal like I'm going to keep my office cleaned up every single day, or I'm going to make the bed every single morning, or I'm going to go for a mile walk every single day. Those are goals that should be lauded, and I'm very proud of you for doing those goals. But every now and then you're going to have goals in your life that are not quite that simple. They're going to be difficult goals. I mean, goals like, losing 100 pounds. Can you even possibly imagine? I can't even imagine the concept of losing that much weight. Or a difficult goal like I want to make $1 million in the next 365 days. Or something like I want to travel to all 50 states in the next 10 years. I mean, these are just huge goals that I've seen people make before, and I've kind of picked up some lessons from them, some good lessons and some bad. But I thought today we could talk about that a little bit, and also maybe let's start with, why would you ever set a giant, challenging, difficult goal like that? I mean, who wants to put themselves through so much work? And I've got some theories on that, 3, as I was taking my notes for you today. And the first one on that is because, those big, challenging goals are the ones that are really going to test you and really make you stretch yourself. And it really is one thing to go walk a mile around the block. And again, I've lauded it, but imagine trying to lose something like 100 pounds. Do you know the kind of mental discipline it's going to take and physical discipline it's going to take for a ginormous, humongous goal like that? But the kind of person that you'll become on the other end will be absolutely amazing. And also, speaking of something like a weight loss goal, for example, can you think of how much a difficult goal like that is going to improve you? Oh my goodness. I mean, health-wise, quality of life-wise, length of living-wise. I mean, and we're not going to focus on just that goal, but I'm just thinking about things like that are going to have to be, huge. Let's say, traveling to all 50 states over 10 years, or something even more wild, like 5 years. Could you imagine the goal of traveling to all 50 states in 5 years? The number one, the amount of planning you're going to have, the amount of money or budgeting or negotiation you're going to have. I mean, you pick any ginormous goal, and when you think about how you're going to come out on the other end, it's going to be amazing. And that's why, difficult goals are so cool to me. Not cool. I mean, I like the word cool, but I think challenging or worthwhile. There we go. The reason difficult goals are so worthwhile to me is because you are really going to come out a different person on the other end. Physically, it could be a different person. Mentally, for sure. Psychologically, for sure. So as I'm telling you why you want to do some of these things, be thinking about some big, giant, hairy, difficult goals that you yourself would like to do. And the reasons of why and how you do them that I'm going to talk about today are hopefully going to sync up with some of your plans here. I also like giant, difficult goals because they bring the most reward. And this is not exactly what I was talking about in the previous point, but small goals, in my opinion, bring small rewards, small challenges. They bring just smaller rewards. But the bigger you make the goal, usually the bigger the reward's going to be. I mean, losing, becoming more flexible and losing 5 pounds is one thing, but losing 100 pounds, again, I mean, you're going to benefit so much more from that. And I was reading something recently in a Jay Abraham book, and he's talking about doing big audacious things in your life versus doing smaller incremental things. Oftentimes, when we're going through life, we're told to, do small, little incremental things. Get a job when you're 21, and maybe you'll get a promotion when you're 22, and another promotion when you're 23. And each time you'll get like a 2% pay raise. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that path. But if you want to make the leaps and bounds that you're going to need to accomplish big things in life, you're going to have to make your goals difficult, and you're going to have to make your goals outrageous, ginormous, hairy, big goals in order to make, giant leaps. So you're not, getting one promotion a year. You're getting 5 promotions a year, and your pay isn't going up by 1% a year. Your pay is going up by 10 or 20 or 30% a year. Or you're starting your own business and you're becoming a multimillionaire. I mean, to accomplish those things, your goals are going to have to be big, and they're going to have to be difficult. So as you're thinking again about where you want to be in 5 or 10 years, think about the kind of person you're going to have to become and the kind of goals you're going to have to use to get there. And, kind of the third thing that came to mind to me right now is I always like kind of doing the things that other people won't do. And that's, to me, another reason why I like picking goals that are really kind of big and obnoxious sometimes. For me, oftentimes, it's physical goals. I'm a big guy. I'm into CrossFit. And recently we did a ruck in CrossFit. It was called a ruck, which is where we went out for a long hike as a group of people. And it was hard work. It really was. And most people won't do that because, and even to tell you the truth, even when I started planning the ruck with my friends, and I thought about the amount of times I've gone out and walked like that, I thought, man, this is going to be hard. Maybe I'll do half of it, because they gave us options to do like a quarter of the ruck or an eighth of the ruck or half the ruck. If you're going to do half the ruck, by the way, just go ahead and do the entire darn ruck right there. But, they gave ways to get out of it if it got too hard early on. And I made the point from the beginning that, I want to do this because it is hard. And I want to do this because there's only a small number of people doing it. And to me, that made the big challenging goal, even that more rewarding, and even to the point where I wanted to do that more. So again, I like big, difficult goals because they'll test you and they'll improve you. You're going to get the most rewards when you choose the biggest, most challenging goals, and most people don't do them. And to me, it just feels really good in life to go through doing things that most people don't do. And again, I don't want to slight people that don't pick the goals that I do or don't pick hairy goals. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just I like doing things that either make me stand out or that most people will kind of write off and say, you know what, that is way too difficult. I will not do that. Okay, so we've covered the why. Now, hopefully you have, something in your head about the goals that you would try to do. And again, I want to remind you is don't dream small. Don't dream medium, dream huge, dream ginormous. And the reason I want you to do that is because for you to even make small incremental gains, you have to think in a totally different way. If you're somebody who, let's say you're making $20,000 this year, and in the next 2 years, you want your income to be up to $100,000. The type of person you're going to have to become and the type of discipline that you're going to have to master to accomplish a difficult goal like that is going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm going to give you some of the things that I have used that have helped me accomplish a lot of my goals in life. And these are even things that I use to this day. And some of them are like tools, things that I run on my cell phone. Some of them are apps. Some of them are mindsets. Some of them are disciplines or books or things that I picked up over time. I'm going to start, I do several videos over time, and I'm going to start with a simple list of 5. So this is going to be my 5 ways you can really stay committed to your difficult goals. Now, disclaimer, you've probably heard all these before. So I've arranged these in the order of what I would consider importance or the things you need to attack first. So, as always, I would love to say that I'm a guru on top of the hill with my legs folded and I've got all this wise information. But really, what I do is I just take information from mistakes in my life. I take information from things that other smart people have put out there, and I've adapted them for myself to make it easier for me to accomplish my goals. So, like I said, you've heard a lot of this information before. I'm just going to emphasize it for you, and I'm going to tell you different ways that you can accomplish it and make it work for your big goals. The first one, and this is something I absolutely do, and if you ever meet me in person, feel free to call me on it, and I will show you, is we have these great ideas. They come to us in the shower. They come to us when we're walking. They come to us when we're driving at a red light, and then the red light changes to green and we speed off. We come up with all these great ideas, but we don't ever do anything with them, or we don't dedicate. This is what I really mean, is we don't dedicate time to thinking about our lives. And so the first thing I want you to start doing, if you're going to come up with big, giant, difficult goals and commit to accomplishing them, is build time into your life to think about your life. Most of us are too busy either cooking or eating or exercising or socializing or raising kids or sleeping or doing our job or taking out the trash or mowing the lawn that we don't actually plan time in our day to plan our life. I do this somewhat on Thursday, but a lot on Friday. So I decided a while back for my schedule, for example, since I do a lot of one-off consulting, you can go to my website at Stop Doing Nothing and you can book time to talk to Patrick. But I've limited my calendar to where you can only book time on Monday through Wednesday. And even in there, I've got some recurring things going on. So the time to get a piece of Patrick is very limited. Thursday, I will do some maybe specialized one-on-one calls that I set up myself. And then Friday, my calendar is all Stop Doing Nothing time. There it is over there. Stop Doing Nothing, Stop Doing Nothing. Friday is listed as a recurring appointment from 8 to 5 on my calendar of Stop Doing Nothing time. And during that time, I try to pull myself away from, client work. I try to pull myself away from distractions. This is a good time to, by the way, to go out to a coffee shop and have a cappuccino or an espresso, if you're that kind of person. But I try to basically help plan my life out. I can't remember who said it once, or if I read it someplace, or where it came from, that, when you don't plan things and you don't put them in your calendar and you don't think about where you want to go, basically life just happens to you. And I decided a while back that I did not want to be the kind of person that life just happens to me. Our world is set up so that if you don't do anything, or if you give the minimal amount of effort, the world guides you. The world's kind of on autopilot. You do your bare minimum and you apply to like a job at McDonald's. By going to McDonald's, you're going to get a certain salary and you'll probably get automatic promotions, and they'll tell you what to wear and when to show up and what to do. And it just happens on autopilot for you if you don't plan it out. And that's why, in my opinion, the planning time is so important. And by planning time, I don't just mean 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, come up with a way to document and journal what you want to work on and get this stuff written down on a regular basis and update it on a regular basis. So even though I have 8 hours blocked out, I have to admit I don't use the full 8 hours. It may be a couple of hours where I just sit there and I think and I take notes. Excuse me, my nose itches. Where I sit there and I think and I take notes about what I want to accomplish in life, and am I there, and what do I have to eliminate to get there, and what do I need financially to get there, and who do I have to contact, and who's my dream 100? You've heard of that before. Who are the people that you want to be around, and what places do I have to be? I mean, I live in Oklahoma City now, but that may not be the case forever for me to accomplish the things I want to accomplish, especially when it comes to things like getting into bigger media markets like, in Dallas or New York or Chicago or Los Angeles. I may have to get outside my comfort zone there, but it starts with me thinking about it. Just stop and think. Most people don't do this, okay? Most people will just not stop and think about their lives. They'll let it happen on autopilot, or they'll get to it. They'll get to it when they wake up in the morning, or they'll get to it before they go to bed, or they'll get to it when they go on vacation, or they'll get to it later. Getting to it later is, to me, success suicide. And growth suicide. Whenever you say I want to get to it later, you don't schedule what later is, you might as well not have said anything to yourself. If you're gonna say, I want to do this later, then pull up your calendar and say when later is. Don't let later be this ambiguous time period in next week, or it's that next week or next month or next year. Say later is going to be Friday at 8 a.m. or next Thursday at 2 p.m. or whatever. When you say later, please make sure you please make sure you say what later is, so you actually get to it. So out of all the things I'm going to talk about, this one right here I'm going to spend the most time on. It's going to be the planning and thinking about your life. If you want to accomplish big, giant, difficult goals, then you're going to have to think about them and plan them out. Please, I'm begging you, as your internet friend, please do this. Think about your life. Put some time into, thinking about where you want to be in a month or a quarter or a year. For the love of all's holy, please, if you did nothing else, if you watched this video to this point and you got tired of it and you stopped right here, you would get the most important point right here. The point of stopping and planning time in your life. Okay. Now, when you get to that point, we're going to cover number 2 here. I want you to, as you're thinking about these difficult goals, is all of us have these massive dreams of all these things we'd like to do. I would love to learn how to play bass. You should see one in the background there someplace. It's over there. Learn how to play bass. I would love to learn how to play piano. I would love to learn how to play flugelhorn. I would love to learn how to do an Ironman and run a marathon. I would love to get my instrument and my commercial pilot's license. I would love to hit all 50 states before I die. I could go on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And if I really thought about it, I could probably come up with a list of 100 or 200 things that I would like to accomplish when it comes to goals. However, when you have a list of things you want to focus on, and that list of things you want to focus on is very long, then that's not a list of focus. That's a list of dreams and hopes and wishes that you'll never get to. So out of my 5 points here, number 2 is focus on a small number of things that you want to do really well. Have you ever heard the phrase, someone who's a jack of all trades, master of none? That used to be me, and that's to me, that can be me in some areas of life. But if you're a generalist, you are never going to be known for being good at one particular thing, and your skills are never going to get sharp and being good at that one particular thing. So take that list of 100 or 200 things that you want to accomplish in life and narrow that down to 5. Now, don't get rid of the other 95 or the other 195. Just put those bottom on the list, but pick 5 things. And this may be an exercise of you constantly juggling these 5 things and going through your list over and over and over. And pick the 5 things that are the absolute highest priority on your list that you want to get good at. And make sure they're difficult goals. Because remember, we're talking about being committed to difficult goals. Make sure those 5 things are challenging, and there are things that are quantifiable, and there are things you can definitely do. Because once you focus on those 5 things, it's going to determine everything else that comes after that. It's going to determine what skills you need. It's going to have to determine the people that you want to be around. It's going to determine how you do stuff like lay out your environment. It's going to do stuff like determine what kind of friends you need and what kind of network you need. I'm not sure if I said that. It's going to determine even where you travel and what kind of budget you need and what your income needs to be and what your expenses are going to be. So narrow down your list of difficult goals to 5 things, okay? So we've got building planning time into your schedule, narrow down the goals to a small number of things. Now, you've heard of SMART goal setting before. Okay, can't remember what it stands for. Whatever. Something measurable. My whole point when I hear about SMART, the phrase SMART goal planning, is the word I like to use is quantifiable. I learned that word a while back and I absolutely fell in love with it. Whether it's in business or personal, is I like to do things that are quantifiable. I like to run not just a random distance. I like to run a particular set distance, or I like to run for a particular set time, or I like to do a particular contract to raise a particular amount of money. I like things that are quantifiable. So if you're going to pick a difficult goal in life, make sure that goal is also quantifiable. Not pie in the sky of, I hope to do a bunch of this, but turn it into a way that there's somehow numbers or words involved so it can be measured. I want to run 5 miles. I want to run 26 miles, which is a marathon if I'm not mistaken. I want to travel to 50 states, 50. I want to lose 100 pounds, 100. I'm such a huge fan of picking quantifiable things, because then there are things in my world that you can put on a spreadsheet and that you can chart. If I need to lose 100 pounds, then I know exactly when I've lost 5 pounds and 10 pounds and 15 pounds and 20 pounds. I can chart that out. Hips don't lie and neither do scales when it comes to losing weight. So please make sure you pick things that are quantifiable. You can measure them. There's qualitative things and there's quantifiable things. Quantifiable things, number one, that's just a beautiful word. Let that word roll off your tongue a couple times. Quantifiable. But what it means, I think it's based on the word, probably some Greek or Latin word that has to do with the word quantity, is it means it can be measured in a finite way. It doesn't mean like a lot or a little. A lot and a little aren't quantifiable things. Those are just kind of subjective, emotional words. But 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, for you, those of you who grew up on Schoolhouse Rock, those things are quantifiable things that can be measured. So when you're working on your difficult goals, please make sure you work on the quantifiable ones. Now, another part of being quantifiable, and I kind of separate this out into another one, is one called deadlines. So in addition to something being quantifiable, I want you to give yourself a deadline on something. The last probably 10 years of my life, I've forced myself to become more hyper aware of time. And I've put mental tricks in place for this. I've put actual tricks in place for this. But to give you an idea of just how much I measure time, in my office here in Stop Doing Nothing Worldwide headquarters, there's a calendar up on the wall over there. On my watch, I have timers set up to remind me to do simple things like drink water, stretch, eat. On my phone, I have an app that lets me put in different countdown timers for different events in my life. And then I have another goal setting app that reminds me at the end of the day what I should have checked off for the day. So I've become obsessed now with time, because I realize that time is a finite resource I have. I'm not going to say there's an unlimited amount of money, but there's an unlimited amount of resources when it comes to people or knowledge. There is no limit to the amount of money that I can make. However, the one thing in my life that I know is finite is time. I only have 24 hours a day. I only have an hour, to record a podcast show for you. And so I've put all these reminders around me of that help me measure time and make sure I'm always keeping an eye on that. Earlier, I talked about the fact that, sometimes when you say like someday or maybe in the future, and you give yourself things you want to achieve, but you don't put a quantifiable time on them, they'll never happen. That's another reason I think why I am so obsessed now with either countdown timers or goal-based things or days counting down. I mean, I kid you not. There's an app on my phone here where I sit here and have all these milestones for all the important days of my life. And you know what one of the most important days of my life is coming up? Let me see if I can find this for you in my app. One of the most important days of my life coming up is Top Gun, which starts in 162, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, 162 days and 2 hours. So I have a whole list in this particular app, which is called Waiting List. I have like 10 or 20 different important countdown timers, and they're counting down by the second every single day. That's how, if I were to pull up my watch right now, it tells me I've got 26 minutes before I have to stand next. That is just how obsessed I've become with time. And I don't know if you want to become that obsessed with it, but let me tell you, if you do become that obsessed with time, you learn not to waste it. And that would probably be the most important thing I'd say here is keeping track of time and giving yourself deadlines to help you stay committed to your difficult goals will just help you on my last point, which is hyper-focus. So point number 4, give yourself deadlines in everything. Even if you're giving yourself deadlines which are kind of little small micro goals on the way to a big milestone. So again, if your goal is to lose 100 pounds, give yourself a deadline to lose that 5, that 10, that 20, that 25, that 30. And then obviously you're going to have a deadline for the bigger goal, but give yourself micro deadlines. Number one, that helps you measure progress. And number two, it helps you feel a little bit better to know that you're actually making progress. I mean, if you're not measuring it, how do you know if you're making progress? And giving yourself deadlines and keeping an eye on time leads very well as a segue into my fifth point, which is focus. Or, as some people say, follow one course until successful. The word focus means various things, but my favorite acronym for this is follow one course until successful. And this goes back to number 2 when I was talking about narrowing down the goals. It's in this planet we are given a lot of options, entertainment options, friend options, financial options, career options, entrepreneurial options, and all these things are attractive. I mean, they really are fun when you think about starting all the different businesses that you can start out there. But you can't start a single one of them unless you pick one and you focus on that one. So what you have to do is you have to use, not giving a darn about most things out there. And that's something that can be a challenge for some people. What I mean there is, there was a book, Perry Marshall wrote a book a while back about the Pareto principle, the 80-20. Actually, it was written by a guy named Pareto in the first place, and then Perry Marshall adapted it for business, is that 20% of the stuff out there is only the stuff that you should be focusing on. So you should be focusing the majority of your time on a small number of things. And what that means is you may have to reduce your social circle. That means you may have to shut down some social media if that's something that's distracting you. And by the way, be very honest with yourself. That's something else you have to do when it comes to focusing and being committed to difficult goals, is being very honest with yourself and very transparent with yourself. One of the things I've done early on and I continue to do is I keep a very good record of the amount of time I spend on social media. Apple's done a great job with this because I've got apps all over the place now that tell me, hey, Patrick, you spent this much time on Facebook and this much time on YouTube and this much time on Twitter and this much time on email. I mean, I micro-measure everything, man. And if you ever want to know how I do some of this, drop a comment below or hit me up. You can text our office here at 405-217-4752, and I will gladly answer your questions about any of this. And again, the phone number is 405-217-4752. You can text Patrick there. And text me any question, and I'll even cover it in a future video, if you will. But I've had to basically eliminate things in my life to allow other things into my life. I talked earlier about the fact that we have, a small amount of time. Well, when we kind of fill our calendar, our social calendar, or things like that with busy work or with random things or with, built-in time wasting, we are eliminating other things. Another way for me to put this is every single time you are choosing to do something, every single time you are choosing to go out and drink with your friends, or if you're choosing to sit your butt down and do a Netflix, binge, you are subconsciously but actively making a choice to not do something else. And, I've gotten, blowback on this before because people are saying, well, you can't work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's right. And I agree there. And that's why I really do try to build in some, social or some relaxation time with different things going on. However, it's just something for you to be consciously aware of, is that when you're choosing to waste your time and you are choosing to waste your life and you are choosing to not be obsessed, which is a word I absolutely love, and I'm sure I've got other videos about there. As a matter of fact, I think that's on the top of the Stop Doing Nothing website at stopdoingnothing.com. When you are choosing to, actively ignore things out there, you are really hurting your chances at hitting those big, difficult goals. So just think about that next time let's say, you want to do a Netflix binge and it's not planned, or think about that the next time you just want to lay around and, get to something tomorrow. So I have no problem. I want to make sure I clarify this. I have no problem with, sleep and rest and mental refreshing and, mental health time and binging in front of Netflix. I'm a huge, Game of Thrones, West Wing, Studio 60, The Newsroom, and Robot Chicken fan. So there are plenty of times I do that. But I try, number one, to plan that time. And number two, I try to limit that time. And number three, I try to use that time as a reward for other things I've done out there. So again, I want to bring this back to the word focus. Follow one course until successful. Please make sure you're planning your time out, and please make sure you are eliminating the things out there that are not serving you. And by the way, this also comes true, I mentioned about social media, but even when it comes to things in your social circle that you may have to eliminate. For example, we oftentimes, on our phone will vibrate or beep at us, and we'll get a text message, and we feel like we have to pick that up and answer that right away. Or that happens with email. Oftentimes you'll have Outlook or you'll have Apple Mail running. Bing, 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 bing. Email comes in, you have to answer it, right? Because somebody has chosen to interrupt your planning time and your life with their desires. Here's not a little trick. Here's just advice I'm going to give you. Learn to ignore that stuff. Learn to shut down email. And for the love of all that is holy, please learn to turn off most of the messages on your phone. These are interruptions that will kill some of that planning time and kill some of that mental focus. There are going to be times on, like during my mental planning time, like on Fridays, where if I'm answering emails, because they never stop, or I'm answering text messages, it's going to interrupt my flow, and it's going to interrupt my planning, and it's going to interrupt my life. And, as much as I love my clients and I love new business, I have to put myself first. And this is my advice to you, is always learn to put yourself first. Don't be governed by social media notifications and text messages and emails that other people are sending your way all the time. Learn how to focus. Learn how to take advantage of the tools that are built into your technology to help you focus. It's amazing, and I'm going to speak, I don't know about other platforms, but I'm going to speak that, Apple gives me a lot of tools to make sure that I limit myself, to certain hours of allowing interruptions. I can go into my phone and I can see, from 6 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't want to hear about my text messages. Shut them down. Shut them down. Take advantage of the tools that teach you how to focus. And you know what? I may have to do another video on this, because now as I'm sitting here talking about it, I realize how important focus is to getting other things done. How important eliminating interruptions is to getting other things done. So as a quick recap here, the more I think about focus, that is just such an important topic in life that I really wish that you would pay attention to. Follow one course until successful. But as a quick recap for how you're going to stay committed to your difficult goals, number one, you're going to build planning time into your life. Please do that as soon as possible. Number two, you're going to narrow down your goals. You're going to find out, what are the 5% of the things you're going to spend time on, or of all the things you want to do in life, the top 20%, and spend 80% of your time on that 20% of things. I want you to come up with quantifiable ways to measure progress. I want you to give yourself deadlines. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of countdown timers. I've got shortcuts on my desktop. I'll show you some utilities in the future if you're interested. I've got countdown timers on my phone. On my watch. I've got countdown timers on my phone. I've got stuff, again, where I'm just kind of obsessed with time. And last but not least, which kind of wraps up all these other things here, is the importance of the word, of eliminating distractions and really focusing on staying committed to your difficult goals. One last thought I'll leave with you. Once you decide that it's time for a difficult goal in your life, I want to make sure that you know the difference between deciding casually and deciding. Again, follow one course until successful. Eliminate all the other possibilities. And in some cases, you may have to, hopefully not literally, but philosophically, burn bridges. Let's say there's a particular friend that texts you because they want to go out drinking every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And you know what? You've known this friend since junior high school. They're a good friend. They're a loyal friend. Maybe you have to do something like eliminate them from your life. Or maybe you have to, block their text messages or not always answer them. Or, block their phone number from your phone if they're not serving you. The concept of becoming obsessed is one that we could talk about for a while, but it's a topic that you're going to have to learn well if you're going to want to accomplish big things in life. It really is. Big, difficult things. You're going to have to become obsessed about these things. I've done other videos on obsession. Please feel free to watch them, of course, after you subscribe. But become obsessed with what you want out there. Become obsessed with your big, difficult goals and staying committed to accomplishing your big, difficult goals. And once you become obsessed, you know what? Everything else just kind of happens for you. And I've seen this with so many other people and with me on some of my goals is that obsession and that constant wishing and hoping and removing every other thing in your way to focus on one particular goal or a small number of goals will work wonders in your life. And man, do I love this topic. I could talk about this all the time. As always, thank you for watching. Please make sure you subscribe to the podcast and rate the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all those places. On YouTube, again, there's a subscribe button down here at the bottom. Make sure you subscribe and click the little bell to get notified. And, as always, thank you for watching. Send me your feedback. Like I said, you can leave a comment on the platform you're watching on. You can go over to the fan page for Patrick Allmond or the Twitter account for Patrick Allmond and leave comments there. And I'll do probably a future topic on there. Or you can also just text our office at 405-217-4752. Any comments, questions, or feedback you have, I would love to hear from you. As always, thank you for watching the Stop Doing Nothing show.